Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. We're going to get started in just a few moments. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. We're going to go ahead and get started here. First, I just want to say hello. My name is Casey Murphy, and I'm ACT's Events and Programs Manager. I want to first to welcome all of you today for our February webinar event entitled The Right Program for Right Now, Leveraging Technology and Enhancing Communication to Connect Employees to Viable Commute Options. Our presenters this afternoon will be Rachel Forsteth with Steer Davies Glebe, Tom Harrington from Intuit, and Mark Melnick from Swedish Health and Services. I just wanted to let you know that today's webinar is being sponsored by the Employer Council, and we're really excited that they brought this to our attention. It's been a great draw, and we're really looking forward to it today. So thank you, Mark. Real quickly, everyone, I just want to do a quick polling question here. First, just want to see how many of you are currently a member of ACT. We'll take a few moments here to get that going. Okay, one more minute here. Got a majority of you voted here so far. So almost 2/3 of you are members. That's awesome. Okay, I'm going to close that. That's awesome. Okay. Real quickly, I just want to go over a few housekeeping items before we get started. I'm mute during this webinar. If you have a question or have a problem hearing us, please hit the question mark sign to the left of your name and type in your question, and I will do my best to answer your questions as the webinar gets going. We will have a Q&A at the end of the webinar, but if you have a pressing question that you would like to have the speaker address during their presentation, please feel free to type it in the question section and we'll try to get it answered. Also, during the Q&A, please specify if you have a question for a particular speaker. Finally, the session is being recorded and we will have the recording up on the ACT website within 24 hours after the presentation ends. Now, I'd like to go ahead and introduce you to David Strauss, ACT Executive Director, to give an update on what ACT has going on currently.
Thank you, Casey. Good afternoon and welcome, everyone. It was really exciting to see that we had over 350 folks register for today's webinar, and looks like we've got about almost 200 of them on the line so far. Looking at it, from the registrations, representing a really wide range of sectors within transportation demand management, and wanted to just take a quick poll as well to see how many people are actually watching with you for today's call. If you can just take a moment to click on the response there. And as you do that, it was great to see so many non-members joining today's webinar. It looks like there were about 25% of folks that were non-members. And the Association for Commuter Transportation is an international association and leading advocate for commuter transportation and transportation demand management, working to advance both the professionals leading these efforts as well as progressive policies federally and locally. So let's see where we were with the results on that survey.
I can see it. It was majority was 77%.
All righty. So, looks like most are watching it on their own. A few have some other folks in the room with them. So ACT strives to get the most out of our transportation system while improving the lives of commuters, increasing the livability of communities, and supporting the economic growth of businesses as we look to create a better journey for everyone. And if you are already a member, you know about the valuable benefits and services you receive from ACT, including networking, learning, advocacy, public policy, and research. And if you're not a member, I invite you to join us and encourage you to attend one of our upcoming conferences and events. This April, we're hosting our first ever Emerging Mobility Summit, April 24th to 25th in Columbus, Ohio. It's an exciting new event that aims to shape TDM's role in emerging transportation options and technologies. Great opportunity to see and learn on-site in Columbus from the Smart Cities efforts that are taking place there. Our international conference is July 29th to August 1st in Anaheim, California, which will bring together over 500 TDM professionals for 4 days of learning, networking, and of course fun, as we're down the street from Disney. And the TDM Forum, November 13th to 14th in Nashville, features 2 days of discussions on the future of TDM, a great location for us to go and learn and hear what is happening in the Nashville and the Tennessee area. Today's webinar, The Right Program for Right Now, Leveraging Technology and Enhancing Communication to Connect Employees to Viable Commute Options, brings together a great panel to discuss scalable strategies that leverage customized data collection, enhanced communication tools, and integrated solutions to connect your commuters to the right commute choice, and in turn create lasting behavior change. By establishing a credible relationship with your employees, your investments into various programs will yield value by achieving greater participation. We've got a great group of panelists today, and it's my pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Rachel Forseth. Rachel is a consultant at Steer Davies Gleave and has worked on TDM projects nationwide. Rachel specializes in marketing and communications, TDM, and employer engagement. Currently, she serves as a consultant to the Sandag iCommute program. In her project role, she liaises between Sandag's communications and TDM teams to integrate employer outreach with TDM messaging and planning. Her work on behavior change and sustainable transportation campaigns spans from developing and supporting employer commuter benefits programs to personalized transportation planning projects and ordinance implementation. Please join me in welcoming Rachel Forseth.
Thanks, David. Hello, everyone. Nice to virtually meet you. My name is Rachel, and I work for Steer Davies Gleave. You can call us STG. And for those of you that haven't heard of us, we specialize in planning, TDM, and behavior change. And today, I'm going to focus on our partnership with Sandag and some exciting work going on with them. And Sandag's a regional planning group in San Diego. For a bit of background, iCommute is the TDM program, and similar to many others throughout the country, the focus really is employer outreach and education. TDM fits in neatly with regional goals to reduce congestion and emissions and enhance the quality of life in a city that's not terrible in the first place, but traffic has only gotten worse in the last decade as more companies and people move to the region. We found that many companies are aware of commuting-related issues and how it affects their bottom line. For example, the cost of adding more parking garages or losing employees because of their long commutes. This is never shocking news to them, but employers usually don't know where to start, so transportation benefits just kind of get pushed to the back burner because HR has other more pressing, in their mind, issues. So our employer services program conducts very targeted, proactive engagement of large companies to help them design a commuter program, oftentimes from scratch, that's customized to their unique employees and needs. So here's sort of the life cycle of our outreach program on the screen. And today's focus is going to be on data. So a clear and concise survey is the first piece in a puzzle to creating an effective commuter program. It's a very simple tool, but it's powerful if you get good data. We already know how people are getting to work. Odds are most of them are driving alone, or we wouldn't be here. So we want to ask the right questions that provide a clear pathway of how to build a program that will actually create lasting behavior change. And our survey has a few functions, one being to calculate a drive alone rate and set a baseline mode share so we can improve upon that. For example, 80% of people drive alone 3 days a week, 10% of people bike 1 day a week. But more importantly, the goal of our survey is really to understand what is going to change people's behavior and how can we make it easy for them to leave their cars at home. Commuters are not a stock photo. They're very diverse, as I'm sure you know. No matter the industry or department, people have unique needs and very real challenges. So if you target the masses, a lot of folks are going to fall between the cracks. We've got to find out why people do the things they do. What is it going to take for them to make a change? And this isn't the manipulative kind of marketing that car companies, our arch nemesis, have done for decades. But for our purposes, it's really just about reducing the burden of change. And a good survey will help do exactly that. It'll segment your audience, tell us what matters to them, and then we can customize our marketing around those values so it actually resonates with people. And rather than telling folks what to do, like you must carpool 4 days a week, let's just make it easier for them to find a ride match or purchase an electric bike or get their kids into a school pool, whatever it may be that helps them reach that tipping point. So from the survey responses, we can see why people commute the way they do. Is it lack of awareness of their options? They probably have some barriers to riding transit or pain points with the thought of joining a van pool. So we've got open-ended questions as well. And every time we look into the results of a new survey, there's something we had not seen before. One thing we really stress to employers is that not every single person needs to upend their lives and start biking or carpooling every single day. Again, we just want to target a small audience of people that have feasible options and are willing to make a change if they're nudged in the right direction. So with a focus group like that, a company will see a much better return on investment if they choose to incentivize certain modes. Another feature of our survey is some GIS analysis, where we can identify clusters of areas that have a high potential for SOV reduction, like people that may live by other interested van poolers or live directly along transit route. The map on the left shows plots of all the employees who took a survey at Legoland, speaking of fun. And then the map on the right is filtered down to folks that indicated interest in transit, and then we overlaid a layer of some bus routes in the area. So the most surprising finding for an ETC or HR team is usually seeing how far people travel to work. And this helps build a case for investing in programs that make sense for certain groups who actually need them and want them. So from there, we help employers pick just 2 or 3 programs or modes to focus on throughout the year. This helps create our trip reduction plan. And again, targeting the right people is much more effective than just blanketed generic corporate marketing aimed at everyone. At Lunch and Learns, we ask people how much money do they think they spend on commuting, and they usually say, maybe 100, 150 bucks a month, and are genuinely shocked to hear that 20% of their income on average goes to transportation because they're not thinking about car insurance, their car payments, parking, occasionally an Uber or Lyft, speeding tickets, God forbid, not that anyone ever gets those, but these are all externalized costs that people just don't think about. So it's important to reframe the way people see their commute and realize there may be a problem in the first place and they can actually benefit from making a small change. Our job is just to make it easier for them to do that. I recently heard actually that loneliness causes the same bodily harm as smoking 15 cigarettes a day, which is really hard to believe, but that's what the studies say. So there's another statistic that coincides with wellness benefits of carpooling or van pooling, for example. So I'm just going to go into a couple of case studies where we've done these programs with employers. First of all, the County of San Diego surveyed their employees and in turn implemented a Tri-Transit program. Some of you may be familiar with it. It won an ACT award. And this program provides 30 days of free ridership to interested employees who qualify, meaning that they've never been a regular transit rider, and they agree to give it a shot 8 times a month. And people sometimes just need that 3rd or 4th or 5th nudge to make a change. So you can see on the screen the results were very encouraging. And region-wide, the program's been offered to over 25 companies, and we've seen the 58% rate of continued ridership, meaning that people reloaded the card with their own money and still commute by transit regularly, which is a huge win. Additionally, we've worked with the local office of Genentech. They've got about 1,200 employees, and they wanted to take targeting to the next step with a method called Kaizen. If you're not familiar with Kaizen, it's essentially a focus group of people that come together and create change for good. So the goal of this one was to revamp their commuter program. And they had a panel of interested and very vocal commuters at their company, and some third parties like HR and facilities and the green team, and then iCommute sat in as well. And their challenge was to find a way to move more people from a nearby train station to their office, which is about 5 miles away. So after weighing a variety of options like shuttles, electric bikes, the group voted to reallocate funding from their existing shuttle into a Lyft for Work program. And the results of this led to huge financial savings for Genentech. And the company saw an increase of people commuting sustainably, and the employees actually felt like their voices were being heard. So that was a win-win-win. And just to wrap up, here's a list of the employers, just a few of them that we're working with. Some of them may have offices in your cities, but either way, I'd be happy to discuss further with anyone that has questions or ideas, or perhaps you want to share what has or hasn't worked for you. So please don't hesitate to reach out to me. And finally, I'll just say people are never more themselves than when they're laughing. So it doesn't hurt to weave some dorky humor into your TDM program. You can laugh about how absurd our car culture is. So with that, thanks again for your time. I'll hand it back to Casey.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much, Rachel. That was great information. Our next speaker is Tom Harrington, who is the Global Commute Solutions Leader in Intuit's workplace organization. In growing globally, Intuit recognizes the responsibility to provide responsible commute alternatives for workers. Tom manages these programs in the Americas, Europe, and Asia. Tom is chair of the Mountain View Transportation Management Association, MVGO. Tom is also an active member of the Northern California chapter of ACT and an active participant in the Employer Council. Please join me in welcoming Tom Harrington.
Well, thanks, David. Really appreciate that. See if I can get this to move on to the next slide here.
You got it, Tom?
So far, no. I've tried 3 different things and it's not coming down.
Well,
so, Casey, if you'd
try
be
one more time.
willing to advance them for me?
Okay. Yeah, no problem.
That'd be great. Let's go on to the next one. Okay, so Intuit really has 3 different types of customers. We've got our consumers, we've got small businesses, and we've got self-employed. Our mission is powering prosperity around the world. Next slide, Casey. So we were founded about 35 years ago. We have almost 8,000 employees around the world in, I'm going to say 21 locations, because the next slide is more current than this one. We have about $5 billion of revenue annually and about 42 million external customers. The company is really built on our core values, starting with integrity without compromise, and we care and give back, which is part of what we give back to the community. The next 4 down below are also core values that help drive the community. You can go to the next one, Casey. So we have 21 locations in 10 different countries. I tried to, on this slide, it's a little busy, but I tried to use visuals to indicate where we actually have programs that are going. As you can see, there's in Edmonton, Canada, we've got some parking and some commute transit programs. We've got a cycle to work program in Paris, France. And in India, we've got a significant shuttle program. More than 50% of our employees come to work in India using the shuttle program, both employees and consultants, all workers. And different levels of investment. For the most part, our biggest investments are in Mountain View, in India, and in San Diego, which is probably our 3rd biggest site. Do you want to go on to the next one? So this is my TDM program visually, and I can talk for an hour on this slide. I won't do that with you folks here, but bottom line line is one of the things you need to know is in a TDM program, there is no silver bullet. There is no single solution that gets things done. In our case here in the Mountain View campus, we've got Google surrounding us here, where they're all around us, and we can't compete with 220 long-haul shuttles a day that go down here. We just don't have the masses of employees here. So we've got some long-haul shuttle programs. We've got about a dozen of them. They are open to the public. As David mentioned, I'm on the MVGO TMA, and we have last-mile shuttles that come to the campus. We are offering free passes on the train here in the Bay Area to folks to employees in Mountain View via the Go Pass. I've got 31 van pools operating right now that are fully subsidized at this area. EV chargers, we've got a ton of them. We probably have 190 ports at this campus. I've got more than 800 EV users across the U.S. We also do Zimride for a carpool matching tool, and we have a commuter bike loan program here in Mountain View too, as well. As if you say you're going to use a commuter bike at least once a week, either for your first or last mile or to get to the campus, we have some nice specialized bikes that we can loan to you for a 6-month period. Once you get to the office, we've got 4 car shares here. We have a guaranteed ride home program of 5 rides per year. We have about 100 bikes on campus as our bike share program. All that enabled by a monthly transit benefit for our employees of $100 per month. We also offer pre-tax benefits. I do the transportation coordination here for folks and offer personalized commute assessments. We have transportation fares. We do some third-party pilots. And with that, Casey, if you're ready to go on the next one. So one of the things that we are using here is we're using a tool called Slack. And Slack is just one of our many channels where employees can provide feedback. It could be, feedback of course could be direct via email or live conversations. It could be in town halls. It could be via commute surveys, or it could be via the tool that I'm going to talk about today, which is Slack. Slack also asked me, I shared with them that I was going to be sharing this because it's real heavy in terms of that particular tool in my presentation. And I shared with them that I was going to be doing this. The only thing they asked was for me to say that this was not a Slack-sponsored presentation. This is basically what Intuit is using as one of our tools for feedback. What is Slack? It's a messaging platform that helps collaboration and teamwork. It simplifies communications. It helps everyone find the answers they need, and it streamlines workflows. Those were taken from the Slack website. I'm going to tell you that my experience has been every single one of those actually does happen using Slack. So today, we use real-time posts. We have the community that can answer. We actually have opened up some of our channels to the partner. So the partner that actually provides our shuttle service is actually in the channel itself, sees the messages, and responds to the messages in real time. I'll talk a little bit more about pinning and at here broadcast in a few minutes. They're really kind of cool. Ubiquitous access. You can access it via your desktop. You can access it via a smartphone. And then there's a targeted audience. You can opt in or opt out. One of the things you can do is you can make your channels private or public. The results that we've seen is we've got real-time communication within the app with the program manager. We've got confidence in the program brand based on the fact that folks know that we're listening. And bottom line is actually having the partner in the channel as well shifts the workload from the program manager onto the partner. The top 3 learnings that we've had so far, if you don't build a channel, a specialized channel for your customers, they'll build it themselves. There is an expectation that you are always available. Even if you put a snooze message on your Slack channel, folks are going to blast right on through it. I actually have received a couple of them during this webcast, even though I've got a snooze message out there. And this last one's kind of subtle, but it's really important. If you take too long to respond and correct the feedback issue that folks are putting out there, they're going to assume that you don't care and the feedback channel dies on you. An example of that, we've had an awful lot of difficulty with Wi-Fi on our shuttle buses, as probably a lot of you out there have as well. And it's not an instant fix to fix the Wi-Fi, although we're moving well in the right direction here on this one. What happened was, all of a sudden, around December, the feedback stopped. And we had a town hall in January, and one of the things we reached out and we said, hey, so we're glad we've got the Wi-Fi settled now. Everybody, we haven't seen any messages coming through here. And lo and behold, what actually happened was the Wi-Fi was still a problem, and folks weren't letting us know. So it was a way that we could get in touch back with the employees and riders and actually let them know that we were working on the problem, and we actually did reinvigorate that. Do you want to go to the next one, Casey? So the next one is going to be an example of communication and education. So this one's a little bit about the Wi-Fi. What I wanted to show here is, if you look in that top where it says Bowers Ride Pal VOE up there, underneath there's a little tiny menu bar, and you'll see some things like the number of people that are in this channel. At this point, it was 190 people that are in this channel. 11 pinned messages. So what we'll pin is we'll pin something that says, maybe it's the guiding principles, or maybe it's a shuttle schedule, or maybe it's the process for getting an emergency ride home if the shuttle fails to show up. Those are the types of things that we'll pin to a channel. And if you go to that, it'll take you right to those documents. The support line number is something else that we've pinned. The other thing, too, that this does a really good job of on your left is it shows that there's a thread. And that thread column on the right side of those three columns is really that Manav Kohli message that talks about the Wi-Fi on 49. And that got blown out into 3 or 4 more messages that you could see down there. And instead of taking everyone in the channel through that message, you could actually take just folks that are interested in that through the thread that reports in there. On the other side is an example of how we used the channel to educate folks that we had a problem with one of our tools with a single sign-on. Casey, if you want to move to the next one. Okay, so this is how we use it for communication. So I mentioned that if you don't build it, the group will build it for you. On the left-hand side, you've actually got an example of a shuttle where they actually have built their own communication message. It's really, they're only the folks that are actually using this shuttle that are in this, but they use this to say, hey, can you hold the shuttle for me? I'm running a little bit late. Did I miss the shuttle? How's things going? And that stays only within that particular route. This route happens to go from, as you can see, Oakland into Mountain View on this particular route. On the right-hand side, we had something really interesting. We had one of the key pathways that our shuttles travel on closed down unexpectedly with the building of a tent. And we actually used this channel to help us communicate to folks that when the shuttles dropped off and picked up, that they weren't going to be dropping off and picking up at the normal stops in here. And we had some miscommunication in here, and one of the things that happened is I actually got on and I actually rode the shuttle and educated the driver and communicated that back out so that folks knew that things were going on. Also, you'll see on that right hand, right under my name there where it says @ here, if you put in the @ sign in here, it notifies everyone in the channel. So those 193 people here that you see up there all got a message saying that there's a message on something to take a look at. In the bottom middle there is something we actually use for our EVs. One of the things we found is the collaboration and communication with EV communities has really taken off since we've switched them over to the Slack tool. Casey, if you want to go on the next one. Okay, this is my next to last slide other than my contact information. In this case, we used it for marketing as well. So In this case, we've got a What's Happening Bay Area, and we do some on-site fueling, and we actually use that to reach out to, as you can see, 1,800 people in the Bay Area, and reached out to them to let them know that there was a Booster Fuels promotion on site this month. On the right side, you'll see a We Care and Give Back event where we actually had some volunteer activities going on, and we actually used that to communicate to them too as well. Casey, if you want to move to the last slide for me, other than the contact. In this case, this is one of the real interesting things. I put it up there as an other. There are two things that came out of our Slack usage that were really unexpected. This particular case is a case where the bus had an accident, and the way we found out, both the account executive and I as well, was in looking at the messages that were coming across from the folks on the bus. And one of the things they said is, hey, we're stopped and we've been at a green light here for 3 cycles and the driver has gotten off the bus. Now, nobody said that we were in an accident because none of the riders knew there was an accident. They were all either sleeping or reading. It was a very subtle one, but it was one where the driver was taking care of it. So this is a real interesting way that you might be able to get real-time information. In this case, it was actually from one of the routes as it was driving in. The other thing, and I'm not showing it here on this chart, but one of the things that happened is I had a situation where I had a partner that was operating, a carrier that was operating shuttles for me, forced into a cease and desist order. And the way I found out about it was not that the partner called me. I actually saw a Slack message from one of the riders who had seen something in an email, and it actually passed across my smartphone while I was sitting in a meeting. And I sat there and said, wait a minute, what was that? And looked at it, and that's how I found out about it. And Casey, if you want to move on to the last one, this is my contact information. One more pitch here really quick. You know that this is being put on by the Employer Council. I am the membership chair of the Employer Council. All employers are welcome. Reach out to me if you're interested in joining. If you're not sure if you're a member, reach out to me anyway, and I'll be more than happy to address whether you're a member or who is designated as the member for your employer. And with that, Casey, I'll hand it back over to you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. And thank you for the pitch about participation in the Employer Council. I would like to echo that as well. If individuals have access to their, our members of ACT, you can always log into your ACT member profile via the website, and you can select the councils that you would like to be registered in as well. And ACT has 6 councils that are out there for members to participate in niche areas, including Transportation Management Association, van pooling, University Council, Telework Council, and a Sustainable Real Estate Council. I think I got them all there.
And just one more thing to add. I know I have a couple questions on here. This presentation is being recorded, and the presentations will be up on the ACT website within 24 hours after the presentation is over. Just wanted to let everyone know that again.
Excellent. And now to introduce our final speaker for the panel, I'm happy to introduce Mark Melnick. Mark works for Swedish Medical Center as the transportation coordinator, as the program lead for employee transportation programming for all 9 campuses in the Puget Sound region. His work focuses on implementing cost-effective strategies that encourage the use of commute options to driving alone. Prior to working at Swedish, Mark worked for the Seattle Department of Transportation as the program lead for the city's commute trip reduction program. In this role, he established performance targets for large employers based on their location and developed customized transportation programming that was responsive to local services and infrastructure. As well, Mark currently serves as the chair of ACT's Employer Council. Please join me in welcoming Mark Melnick.
Thanks so much, David. I appreciate the introduction. So, Casey, I'm going to see if my screen's working here, if I can advance.
Not seeing it. Hold on, let me try one more time here.
All right.
1 second. All right, try one more time and see if that.
And nope, not working. So we're going to go old school.
Has it on.
All right, so let's go ahead to the next slide here. So thank you, David, for the introduction. Just to give a little bit more background on my role at Swedish. I am the program lead for our employee transportation program, which provides transportation services for over 10,000 employees in the state of Washington. Primarily, the employees are focused on 6 major campuses in the Puget Sound region, with a few other campuses and clinics scattered throughout the state. Now, when I joined Swedish almost 2 years ago, I was asked to focus on a specific campus called Cherry Hill, which was going through a development process where it was seeking approval to expand the campus and develop the campus to accommodate the growth in the regions and the services that needed to be provided. So if we can go to the next slide, Casey. So when I was looking at the Cherry Hill campus, I wanted to get a feel for what were the details that I was going to be working with. So I started to develop a profile for that campus that included identifying that there was roughly 3,000 employees traveling to that campus, 80% of which were Swedish employees. The other 20% were made up of smaller tenants. There was roughly 1,850 parking spaces on campus that were shared by both employees and patients of the hospital. The condition that was placed on the hospital to be able to pull permits to begin expansion was that we needed to show the city and our neighbors that we would be able to reduce the number of drive-alone trips made to that campus to no more than 50% during the peak time. This condition then gets ratcheted down 2% every 2 years until we meet a final goal of 32%. So we had an immediate goal, which was to reduce the amount of drive-alone trips to 50% at that campus, which then would continue to go down all the way until 32%. So we needed to come up with a program that addressed the issue today, as well as being flexible to address the issue in the future. Casey, would you be able to expand, go to the next one? Great. So in a nutshell, this is kind of our commuting history before we started to get to work there. And as you can see, we were not doing that great in trying to meet that goal. What this slide doesn't show you is that that goal of 50% was actually a condition that was placed on that campus back in 1986. So since 1986, this campus has been working to try and reduce the number of single occupant vehicle trips to that campus. And up until I joined, it was struggling to get there. So seeing the performance in the past and knowing that this is a campus that was working to reduce its trips for some time now, I thought from the outside looking in, this would be a really easy solution where it was just a case of not having enough programming available to their employees. So it could be fixed rather quickly by just investing more money into subsidizing bus passes, reducing parking, shuttles, et cetera, et cetera. Casey, could you go to the next screen? Unfortunately for me, I was off because the quick fix wasn't available to me. The campus was already offering reduced transit passes through heavy subsidies. We were offering preferred parking for HOV. We had free or reduced parking for carpools and van pools. Our policies restricted the SOV parking on campus. We had lockers and showers for bikers. We had shuttles that would provide connection to major transit hubs. We would attend the employee orientations. We promote local commuter campaigns. So the reality is that we were already investing in what are supposed to be effective programming to change people's commuting habits to non-drive-alone trips. So we had to figure out what was our problem. Why weren't we able to get these programs in connecting them to the employees? So, Casey, if you can go to the next screen. We decided to shift our approach. Up until the launch of our program at that campus, we had what was called a dinner bell approach. And this was, hey, employees, We have all these great options for you. Come and get it and find out what option is going to work best for you. Now, the problem with that is that we knew these programs were fantastic, but the audience that we were trying to connect to didn't. They just weren't aware that they were there. And in realizing that, we knew that we needed to shift our approach. And because the reality is that in any market, our customers are expecting the service provider or the person that's offering the product to tailor what they're offering to meet their specific unique needs. Just like what Rachel mentioned before, there was never a one-size-fits-all solution, commute option for our employees. Our employees were expecting us to find that solution for them and provide it to them. And that's when we had a real good aha moment, when we realized that we're really not in the transportation business. We're in the service business, and we are there to add value to the experience of our employees that are working at our campus. Because by identifying the value of our program for our employees, they were much more likely to go and adopt and try the different solutions that we were offering them. So after making this realization, we decided to launch a new program called the Caregiver Commute Program. And in case you can go to the next slide. And the Caregiver Commute Program is a program that is grounded in the realization that we want to establish a relationship with our employees so that we understand what they need, and then in turn provide them solutions to their transportation needs. This was something that we did where we launched a electronic platform that allows our employees to have a one-stop shop for all their transportation questions and solutions. There's a calendaring feature where we encourage the employees to log their trips on their calendar. There is a newsletter that we send out every month that keeps the employee informed about the costs and savings that they have by their commute choices. We also have different services that are available 24 hours a day. Anywhere there's an internet connection, our employees can go ahead and request a bus pass. They can request a trip plan for the different options they're looking for, or find out information and connect with someone to answer their commute question. So this is information that is visible for our employees that they can access at any given time. But what's really special about our program is that we not only collect information from our employees using this platform, but we also have information collected on the back end. So Casey, if you can advance to the next slide. This program also pulls in other data sets for us to be able to make informed decisions on which programs we want to support and which audiences we want to promote the program's choices to. So our Caregiver Commute Program is a program that integrates parking information, so information that's collected from our garages from people parking, human resource and payroll information, where we have demographics and information about the type of department that employees work in, what shift they work, where they're commuting from, and what type of position they are, along with taking that information about what we're collecting from them voluntarily, all rolled up into a nice table there where we can have a quick scorecard of the different commuting habits and different details about them that we can then use to start crafting our message to the different populations. And this is where we get into the real power of our program. As I mentioned before, we were offering some fantastic benefits and services that were available to any of our employees that wanted to access them. What we weren't doing a very good job with was connecting these employees to those different services. Our employees are in healthcare, and their job is to provide health services to the communities that we serve. Their job was not to figure out what's the best commute option to them. They just needed to get to work. So that's where our program steps in. We were going to do the heavy lifting for them, all the difficult work for them, by looking at all the information that we were collecting through the integrated back-end side, as well as what was voluntarily being provided to us, to be able to target our audiences to have relevant, meaningful communications with them, by providing them with solutions that would make sense for them, by hitting on key messages that resonated with them, By establishing that level of credibility with them, we were able to develop a relationship built on trust, where they were more likely to try something new and see something that works for them. So we really needed to focus on not just spending money, but on investing in programs that were valued by our commuters. And a year after we launched this program at the Cherry Hill campus, we were able to see some significant results. So Casey, if you can go to the next slide. In just over a year, we were able to take our drive alone rate, the number of single occupancy vehicle trips, and drop them from 56.7% all the way down to 47.9%, which was something that we were very proud of and really speaks to the power of having good communication that's relevant and meaningful to your audience. We didn't invest in brand new services per se in what we were offering our employees. We invested in establishing solid communications with them and building a relationship and providing them with guidance, our employees with guidance, to be able to make the right recommendations that they would accept, adopt, and implement for a long time. Because as I said before, we have an immediate goal of 50%, but every 2 years, we're going to need to reduce that drive alone rate goal by 2 percentage points. And what works today may not work tomorrow. So we need to make sure that we're listening to our employees, gathering what their feedback is, and making sure our programs adapt to the changing environment that is relevant to our employees. So it was very exciting. We're looking forward to seeing what we can accomplish moving forward. And yeah, we're just really excited about this program. So I think that's where we are. No, there was one more slide here. So this speaks to constantly having our program evolve. So we're constantly collecting the data, we're reviewing it and improving it, so that we don't have to wait 2 years between survey cycles to make changes to our programs that are going to be more costly. By continuously looking at the data that we're collecting, we can make incremental, more cost-effective changes to programs that we have out there to keep us relevant and keep us credible when we're working with our employees. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn the slide back over to David and Casey.
Thanks very much, Mark. I really appreciate that, and I appreciate all of our speakers today. They were awesome, and we actually have quite a few questions that have come in. So I'm going to start with the first one that I got. And again, for everyone who may have joined us later, if you have a question for any of our speakers this afternoon, please just type it in the question mark sign to the left of your name, and we'll try to get as many as we can get answered by the end of this in the next 15 minutes or so. If we don't answer a question, I'm going to have all of the speakers' contact information up on the website along with the presentation, so you can reach out to them personally as well. The first question here is for Rachel. Rachel, can you expand on the GIS capabilities and what other data you've received from it?
We're fortunate to tap into the Sandag's GIS department capabilities. So we plot out, again, you can see where people are coming from, but then we filter out based on what they indicated interest in. So if folks say, I'm interested in carpooling days a week, we can actually filter out just the people that want to carpool, same amount of days people want to carpool, and look at where they live. Say a company is interested in subsidizing mode, we can just pull that mode out, and then we can filter it on top of other layers that the GIS has. So bike lanes, BRT lanes, the coaster, which is our local rail. I'm not sure if that answers your question, but feel free to contact me. I'll send you an example of the map as well.
Okay, great. This next question is for Tom. Tom, can you tell me the difference between a long haul shuttle and a van pool?
Yeah, great question. So a long haul shuttle typically is chauffeured, is the biggest one for us. Usually for us, it goes probably a distance of more than 20 miles, although we do have some that are only going down to San Jose, which is about a 15-mile radius for them. The van pool, of course, the employees or contractors who are in the van pool would do the driving themselves, and the drivers would be approved, in our case, by enterprise van pools.
Okay, great. And then I have another question for you, Tom. Is the driver in India due to regulatory requirements? She's wondering if the programs in place in India specifically are because Intuit is required to, or if they are electing to in order to be a best workplace.
Yeah, so we are electing to in order to be a best workplace. We actually did last year make the #1 best list of make #1 on the workplace best workplaces list in India. So it is a choice that we have made. We also have some concerns about the safety of our folks as well. So there's some security measures that are also built into the shuttle program that we operate there too as well.
Okay, great. I'm going to just skip around here a little bit. Mark, this question is for you. Was there a city ordinance limiting the amount of parking you could provide in Cherry Hill?
The ordinance that was applied there wasn't necessarily limiting the number of parking, more limits the number of trips or that drive alone rate to that campus.
Okay, her expanded question on it too is also, and also that limited the amount you could expand your facility?
It's part of the larger process called it's a major institution identified by the city of Seattle. And as part of that, there's a number of different conditions that are placed on that. That includes transportation and the actual physical development itself. Before any of that physical development could happen, we had to solve for the specific transportation challenge of reducing traffic and negative impact on parking in the neighborhood.
Okay. And just so you know, I have a little background noise on you. I don't know if it changed something at all, but just wanted to let you know. This next question, we'll go back to Tom here. Tom, what company runs your shuttle program? You mentioned someone who participates in your Slack channel.
Yeah, actually that was up there. So it's RidePal Bowers. So it actually is up there as RidePal VOE channel.
Cool, okay. This next one is for Rachel. Please provide more information on the survey. How often is it done? Is it required? And is there a minimum response rate?
Great question. We conduct the survey before working with an employer. We highly recommend it. It's not completely mandatory, but a company earns points based on what their single occupancy rate is. So there's a great incentive for them, and usually they have no pushback. So we start with a baseline survey, and then we reconduct it about every 18 months so we can see an improvement and what's working, and we add more customized questions. And we have a response rate based on the number of employees that they have. So for example, if they have 400 employees, we like to see about 150 responses, and then we can generalize those findings and say X% of all your employees with a small margin of error, which we call the statistical validity. So it varies on the amount of employees they have. But yes, we do like to reach that minimum, and we find that offering an incentive to take the survey really helps us get a better response rate. So we give $25 gift card, for example, maybe 10 $25 gift cards if they have 1,000 employees, and we see a huge boost in response rate to that.
Okay, great. Let me just skip around here. Mark, I think this one is for you. Could you please elaborate on your experience with Loom? Does their system also do the ride matching?
Yeah, I can talk to that. Hopefully I'm not having as much of an echo right here. So what we really like about the Loom platform is the flexibility that it provides us. It has the ability for self-serve ride matching, which are serviced through interest lists, where someone that's interested in finding a carpool or a van pool, they can go to a list that has people on there that can contact each other. But the other cool thing about our Loom platform is that it allows us to work with third-party service providers to help facilitate ride matches, such as Scoop, which is a great dynamic rideshare platform that helps connect people from similar neighborhoods that are traveling similar work locations.
Okay, thank you. Let me get on to another question here. This one is for Tom. Tom, do you have special programs or services you call center locations and employees?
Could you repeat that one again, Casey?
Sure. Do you have special programs or services for your call center locations and employees?
You know, it's funny. Unfortunately, we do not. What we offer for the call center employees is we offer the $100 a month benefit and the pre-tax. One of the things, too, is the areas where we actually do have call centers operating, in particular, Fredericksburg, Virginia, Tucson, Arizona, and Reno, Nevada. In all three of those cases, there's not really strong public transportation in the area either. So it's a bit of a challenge for us, too, as well.
Okay. Thank you. This one's kind of a general question, looking for any of you to respond to kind of thing. Any sense of the most effective incentives? Trying to figure out what people respond to.
I'll go ahead and jump in. I think money always talks. People usually say they'd like to see a monetary incentive.
Rachel, sorry, one second. I just am getting some feedback. People can't really hear you. It's a little faint. Can you just be a little louder?
Sure. How's that? I'll jump in
much
and
better.
say that. Okay. Money always talks. People in the survey respond that they'd like to see a monetary incentive, and it's much cheaper to offer commuting benefits than health insurance or life insurance. So they think their company should be able to chip in maybe $50 a month. But aside from that, also recognition or a monthly lunch or some kind of award so that people feel that their efforts and strides to commute alternatively are recognized. So I'd say money and recognition.
Okay. Anyone else want to respond to that question?
Yeah.
That's
so,
go ahead, Mark.
Tom, go ahead.
Mark, you want to go ahead and go?
Sure, I'll go ahead. I would say that money definitely talks. So cash incentives are always a positive, but I do caution that cash incentives, or any incentives for that matter, is only going to be as effective as the viable commute option that's available. You can provide hundreds of dollars for someone to try and use a commute option, but if it's not going to work for them on a daily basis, you're just pretty much paying for one or two trips versus long-lasting behavior change.
Okay. We're still getting a little background noise there, Mark. Just want to let you know. But Tom, if you want to go ahead and add to that.
Yeah, my answer is going to be a little different. So for our workers here, one of the things we're hearing loud and clear is the length of their commute is really important, as well as the ability to be productive on the commute too as well, especially with our longer commutes like Oakland to Mountain View. We try and address that by having a limited number of stops on the routes and also having productive Wi-Fi on the route too as well.
What was that last sentence? Can you just say that again?
And having productive Wi-Fi on the routes too as well.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. This next question, like I said, we're going to try to get through as many as I can here in the next few minutes. This question is for Mark. Mark, how did you get the messaging out to the employees, and how did you switch away from the dinner bell approach?
Great question. Hopefully this is less feedback. So we did a combination of direct email messaging, going to specific departments and doing face-to-face, as well as having the posters and standard promotional materials just hanging up and visible throughout the campus. So mass emails don't work, people ignore them, but direct emails to specific audiences with key messaging included in it, backed up by having face-to-face meetings with individuals through departments, and having information available throughout the campus, posters, you name it, that also resonated well with our audience.
Awesome. Thank you. This next question is for Tom. Tom, in addition to Slack, is there a transportation alias that employees email questions, complaints to? And also, is there a turnaround response time you aim for? 3 days, 2 days, etc., after employees reach out?
Wow, great questions. So there isn't a transportation alias, there is a workplace alias. So we do have a workplace communications alias, and if there are commuter program questions, those actually get filtered out to me, and I get those there as well. Now, in terms of the turnaround time, we strive for a 4-hour response. We actually strive for much faster than that. And the expectations as we move to Slack is if you're not responding within 10 minutes, you're going to find that you get contacted via another channel, whether it be an email or whether it be a phone call. The expectation, although we haven't published it, is 4 hours.
Okay. Thank you. This next question is for Rachel and Tom. I'll have Rachel go first if you can answer, and then Tom. This question is, I noticed Mark used Loom. Do Rachel or Tom use a commuting management platform like Loom or Ride Amigos or Ride Shark? If not, how do they manage?
Yep, at this point we have used Ride Amigos for the last few years as a region, and we've also recently seen a lot of people using Waze Carpool independently, or their companies getting involved, and Sandex is also partnering with Waze as just another great commute solution out there, although the platform is different than a full suite of services, ride matching service, but it does serve those purposes.
Okay, Tom?
Yeah, no, we don't, although I'm always talking to Ride Amigos. I'm always talking to Loom. TripShot's another one you could throw in there that I'm always talking to as well. We don't use that today, and the way we actually do things is we actually take a hodgepodge of different reporting, like for instance, RidePal's reporting platform. I mentioned about EV charging before. We actually use ChargePoint's program as well. And I pull that all down, as well as some things from our transit subsidy provider, which is today it's WageWorks. We're in the process of moving to Edenred. Pull all that information down and put that together into a single report out. It's a bit cumbersome. It's hard to do with just one person supporting 8,000 people commuting all over the globe, but it's what we're doing today.
Okay, great, thank you. If you guys are okay with staying on the line, we'll try to get a few more of these answered. These are all great questions, and thank you guys for everyone for submitting them. Mark, could you give an example of a program change that you made in response to data or feedback?
Yeah, it's focused on our carpool program. Before, our carpool program had pretty rigid requirements where our employees had to commit to commuting with the same person 60% of the time. So what we did is that we loosened up that policy to allow for more casual carpooling. And so people were able to access reduced parking costs associated with carpools if they carpooled every once in a while. We also relied on Scoop to help facilitate those types of ride matches, those dynamic ride matches, which we recognized allowed us to pick up a lot of trips on the margin that we weren't able to get before, due to the rigidity of the policy that it pretty much was preventing people from carpooling every once in a while when they could.
Okay, thank you. Tom, this question is for you. What is the difference between the commuter bike loaned, I think he said, and loan and bike share program? I think you meant bike.
The idea is the bike share program is really for getting around the campus and to businesses that are close to the campus here. And we have that in several campuses, not just in Mountain View. The difference with the commuter loan program is the intention is for people to take those bikes home. So maybe they take them to Caltrain, or maybe they take them on the long haul shuttles, or maybe they ride directly to their home and back. So the intention is one bike goes home, the other bike comes back to campus.
Okay, awesome. Rachel, we have a question here. I'll let you go ahead and you can tell people, but they want to know what ACT award did the did you guys receive? And is there information on this on your program or your case study anywhere? And we also, in addition to that, had another question: is there a chance to receive a copy of a survey or an idea of one that you have worked on?
Questions. The ACT Award, I believe, was an outstanding public agency marketing campaign. It may be a bit variant from that, but we can certainly send you the data we have on the Tri-Transit campaign if you want to pitch it to your MPO or your transit provider. We've got some awesome information on it. And then I can certainly send along the survey. We have a few different samples. We also provide it on paper as well. So we've got copies in Spanish and Tagalog. And then online, of course, we use SurveyMonkey. But I can send along a PDF of some of the sample questions we use. And we often offer for the employer to add their own questions. So if they were going to conduct an HR survey or they want to see what shifts people typically work, and we can aggregate time based on mood and interest as well. So I'll certainly send that along if you want to contact me separately.
Yep, and I have the person's email address, so I can get that over to you as well. So that's awesome. Thank you very much. Do you guys have time for a few more, or are you kind of done?
Yeah, fire away.
Okay. People are very interested. We still have quite a few people on. Tom, this one is for you. You mentioned that your program includes public commuter shuttles. Is this a program shared with a public agency?
Actually, it's not shared with a public agency. We offer different levels of subsidy. So if you have an Intuit email address, and that includes our contractors, you receive a third off the cost of the long haul shuttles. So a $225 a month pass drops to $150. If you're an employee, then what you could do is you could actually use your transit subsidy of $100 a month and bring that down to $50 of pre-tax. So that $225 is what our neighbors actually ride on those shuttles for. The $150 is what our contractors ride for, and usually it's somewhere in the neighborhood of $50 or less after tax that our employees ride for.
Okay, great. This next question is for Tom and or Mark. Tom, you can go first if you'd like. Are your transportation programs rolled into other corporate initiatives such as wellness, active transportation, or green social responsibility, carbon savings, etc.?
Wow, there's a real tie-in for us, especially on green sustainability. We basically report our commute and have been for probably at least 10 years now as Scope 3 emissions. So we actually do roll in that reporting as well. We do try and roll in programs that have to do with the active for life. So for instance, one of the things you could do is you could use your wellness benefit of $650 a year to actually purchase a bike if that's what you want to do. It's going to be interesting to see. I think we're going to get more involved in working with HR. Just this year, we moved back from under the finance umbrella to under the people in places, which is the HR umbrella too, as well as an organization. So I think you'll see that change as well.
Okay, great. Mark, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, so we definitely have it rolled into our wellness program where we use the wellness team's voice to help promote active transportation options like walking and biking. We've started to establish some solid communication efforts with our HR department, which is also in charge of recruitment. So our transportation program is starting to get some legs when we recruit employees for our organization, which helps reinforce that messaging from before they even arrive to campus. And I do see future activities that are going to be focused on sustainability.
Okay, thank you. Let me do here one more for you, Mark. How many people are behind your office's data analytics? Did you recruit for those skills or train them internally?
They are right now trained internally. I take the lead on that, and that's why I like the platform that we have there. It makes pulling data a lot easier to be able to perform the analytics. And then that type of analysis can be trained with our team members.
Okay. You're getting a little feedback again there, but we're almost done here. This question, I'll switch to Tom here real quickly. Tom, for your long-haul shuttles that are open to the public, how do you ensure there are enough seats for your own employees? And also, how do you keep track of ridership and give announcements such as delays to the public?
Yeah, great questions. So number one, we actually target for somewhere around 70% of capacity for each of the vehicles to be able to ensure that we have seats for our employees. We tried doing something where we went to an actual reservation system with a different company, and that was not well received by the employees. So I got to be honest with you, it's better having bigger and being able to participate that way. Now, in terms of the communication piece, that's a great challenge. So as you saw, the Slack channel works extremely well for employees and contractors. Where it falls down a bit is with our neighbors that are using the shuttles too as well. So what we use is we use the carrier's text alerts to let them know, and they send text messages out to the ridership as well to let them know if there's something that is going to impact their rides, or if the shuttle is late or broke down or something along those lines. The other thing too that we do is if we ever do reach capacity, we do offer lift rides. We've got the partner Bowers set up so that it can actually dispatch lift lines to get billed back to Intuit as well.
Okay, awesome. I think we're going to end this here just because we've gone over and we had some wonderful questions, and we appreciate everyone staying on the line to get them answered. If there's anything else, any other questions pop up, like I said, we'll have all the contact details for each speaker on our website within the next 24 hours here, along with the recording. I want to thank all three speakers again. This was a fantastic presentation, and we hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you all. Take care.
Cheers.